In the past couple sets, Bandai's been adding in Digimon from the Appmon universe to the card game as quickly as they possibly can, with BT23 introducing Poseidomon in his line. And right now, while I think that most folks are actually looking at the Appmon cards through whatever set they're introduced in, and like just trying to utilize those cards in that set's line, with blue cards finally coming out, I think that we can start to make a case for completely color-locked Appmon decks. I haven't had a lot of time to test this myself, but in EX10, with the introduction of Deusmon and his mostly black line, you can make an entirely black-focused Appmon deck utilizing supporting option cards like Defense Training, Memory Boost, and Scramble as a way to really speed up the deck's power. The one caveat to this is that you'll include the level 5 that belongs in that archetype's line. So for example, for Deusmon, it's going to be the Cometmon. However, the second level 5 that you'll have in the deck will be out of color for that deck. So in that case, in EX10, it was Warudamon, who was green-purple rather than black. However, you can still make it possible to cast these other colored level 5s using the level 3 Searcher cards, as well as some of the option cards that the Appmon decks provide. And so now, whenever I see new Appmon cards, I'm really starting to look at them through the lens of what do their actual effects do, and can they be used in their own color rather than their own line. And if we take a look at Poseidomon, the blue color seems quite good here. When you've got things like the Dokomon to draw 1, you've got the previously promo Tweetmon who also lets you draw 1, the Flickmon level 2 lets you draw 1 whenever he has Appmon in the trait and he attacks. Not to mention you have the blue level 3 Searcher in the MCmon, as well as the level 4 Mediamon as a way to play more Digimon onto the board. When you combine this with things like the level 4 Josukaimon or the level 5 Oijamon, who have great defensive and offensive effects respectively speaking, I feel like you can do a lot with Poseidomon here. Additionally, the 2-cost new option card Big Bang Punch gives you a link when you suspend, essentially giving you an additional on-attack effect. Level 6 Poseidomon has a similar effect to all the other level 6 Appmon cards, letting you essentially just link from either his sources or your hand whenever you would evolve into him, or whenever he attacks. This plus his keyword Link +1 lets you get a secondary link effect off of the one he probably already has whenever you would evolve into him. And because the when digivolving and when attacking effects are not once per turn, his Link +1 lets you get up 2 links over the course of a turn. Not to mention his all turns effect lets you unsuspend him when linking. I'm a little iffy on how good his all turns effect is that stops your opponent's Digimon who aren't the highest play cost from suspending for a turn, but the fact that he has evade means that even if they do suspend, he can probably survive. Despite the fact that the Edikaran Tamer seems like a red tamer in blue tamer's clothing, also seems really good, especially when you combine it with things like the Ouijamon on the board, giving you a DP buff in order to keep your Digimon around, and then also letting you use the Ouijamon Sec +1 as a way to hit for 2. Also, one of my main concerns for the Appmon cards has always been the fact that if you de-digivolve them, it really messes things up. But the new Beautymon preventing not only de-digivolve, but also bouncing to hand and deck, alongside things like barrier and the ability to recover, seems incredibly good. Not to mention the fact she's got some pretty decent low-level removal and giving DP- based on how many security cards you have as well. Honestly, when I take a look at all these new Appmon cards, I don't just see the Poseidomon line. What I see now are tools for all of the Appmon's cards to use, and honestly, I think this set was quite strong. Okay, so we're taking a look at the new Mastemon support that came out in BT23, and despite the fact that it's only 3 cards, having a super tiny card pool, all of these cards do a lot to shore up some of the effects that were put on different cards in the past, and it made deck building kind of awkward because you had to include cards that had one effect but not the other, and that can get really tedious when you're trying to make sure you have an answer for multiple situations in just one singular card. So let's first talk about the Lady Devimon, and I think honestly she nearly replaces the EX6 iteration of the card. The only difference between her and the EX6 is that the EX6 has Retaliation while the BT23 version has Blocker. In the past, you could actually combine some of the Anjawomon inheritance effects with the Lady Devimon from EX6 and give all of your Digimon Retaliation and Blocker, but it looks like here you're going to have to make a choice between giving everything Retal plus Blocker on 2 cards versus giving everything Blocker off of 1. The cost 3 reduction is kind of hard to ignore. Honestly, I think it's really good, and I think that might be the reason to really push it over the edge and actually replace EX6 entirely like I mentioned before. The BT23 Anjawomon seems like it may warrant somewhat lesser use. The biggest seller I think is its ability to reduce the play cost, but this effect can be ignored thanks to some of the Mirai effects in the case that you can actually get a Lady Devimon on the field, and then you could just use the Mirai to play down an Anjawomon for essentially nothing. Her other effect to add the top security to hand and then maybe recover 1 seems less useful unless you're maybe at 0 security. It's worded in a way that would be free recovery if you do have no security, which is kind of nice. Some of the builds that I've been seeing recently, I think, focus and utilize a lot of the Patamon cards and cards that can let you look through security in order to evolve for free. This might be a way to actually turn those back on when your opponents put you at 0 security. But even despite all of this, the inheritance effect of Alliance is also nice, but keep in mind the EX6 version of Anjawomon Anjuomon also just has this effect, and honestly, I kind of like her a little bit more just because she can give Sec -2 to really just like shut off a Digimon's ability to like attack and win game the following turn. Barrier is also great, and the fact that she can play MRA for free seems really, really good. More so than maybe the cost reduction from the Anjuomon from BT23, in my opinion. And while I think that the BT23 Anjuomon may warrant less use, the Mastemon probably becomes the de facto Mastemon to use for the deck now. It sets both players to 3 security, which honestly is incredible. It almost feels like a pistol version of Ragnarok Cannon from Galacticmon, being able to just set them at 3 no matter what. Lucemon players in shambles right now hearing this. This also means that you can probably set up some scenarios by putting your opponent to 3 and then find a way to just take out 3 security and then make the final check for game and some sort of combo. I haven't done a ton of extensive research into this, but seeing as how the deck can like really go wide super fast with a lot of the effects from Mastemons in previous versions and the ability to just play down level 5s thanks to some of the tamer effects, it seems like there's got to be something here. Also, Barrier plus Partition is a diabolical duo of effects, where Partition doesn't actually activate if you're deleted by battle, and Barrier will activate if you're deleted by battle, means that you can almost never take her out with just one swing. She either loses a security and sticks around, or she leaves behind 2 level 5s who can DNA right back into another one. One area where I actually don't prefer her is the all turns effect, only being able to stack Digimon in your opponent's security whenever security is removed from, whereas the promo version of Mastemon has the ability to hate on tamers as well, something that I think no other Mastemon card has at this point. So while I think the BT23 version does become the main chicken, you will need to make some sort of concessions as far as ratios are concerned about how many of the promo Mastemons do you want to run just for tamer hate, and also the Mastemon Ace who you can blast in a Digivolve off of potentially one of the Anjuomon or Lady Devimon that's left over whenever the BT23 Mastemon partitions. Also, I completely forgot to mention this when I was talking about Lady Devimon, but the fact that the Lady Devimon inheritance effect is Scapegoat means that you have Barrier, Scapegoat, and Partition. Mastemon will be so sticky now. So that pretty much wraps up the review for Mastemon. Again, small card pool, but these cards do a lot in my opinion. And the Mastemon being secret rare, I think this one definitely earns its status with its ability to stay on board so easily. If you've also been cooking up some tech using the new BT23 Mastemon cards, feel free to put it in the comments below. I'm sure some folks out there would really appreciate it, and I'll also be reading there as well. Anyways, I'm gonna get out of here. Before you get out of here, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.